Happy Friday, and welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Alarm MLB DFS live stream here on the Better Sports Network. I am James Grande, joined once again by a Red Sox fan in Henry Wilson. I can't get rid of you guys. You guys just keep coming at me no matter what I do. John, you, and soon I'm going to find out Howard Bender's converted to the Boston Red Sox fandom. But Henry, what's going on, brother? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, man. Yeah, the Boston fandom is contagious. You better watch yourself. But no, having a great Friday and excited for a lot of awesome baseball games happening today.
Yeah, 12 baseball games to be exact. Your Boston Red Sox are on the slate taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. And it is an interesting slate because there's all types of different things going on. There might be snow today. There's rain in the forecast. We have obviously some high quality pitchers and Shohei Ohtani topping the slate. We have every elite hitter imaginable on a 12 game slate. Only 6 teams not playing, so you can imagine the player pool is going to be deep. What's your overarching thoughts upon your first look until now, Henry? Like, what do you make of this slate? 12 games, definitely different than what we talked about yesterday, going from 5 to 12. But what are your thoughts on today's 12 gamer?
Yeah, like you said, there's stardom all over the place. I think my main takeaway is that you can make a lot of different builds with this. Like there are some star pitchers that you could go with and try to go value hitters, or you can line up the stud hitters. And there's a couple, cheaper pitching options that I do like today. So, I think it's a wide open board with wherever you want to go because you've got some quality players all over the place.
Agreed. And let's get into some situations that we're going to monitor throughout this show. If we get any news on it, we'll let you know. But as of now, it looks like there's a couple situations that could be in danger. First, Miami, Cleveland. There is rain that could be, coming in through the beginning of the game, stopping, and then starting again. So it's definitely a kind of a risky game, especially if you're playing cash games. I think the Miami Cleveland game is at risk. And then we mentioned the snow. Washington, Minnesota. I don't know if, I can't imagine living in Minnesota if it's going to snow almost in the month of May. But, like, what do you think of snow? I mean, snow baseball sounds cool. Like, I played baseball, in middle school and high school and, in New York. But I never played in the snow. I can't imagine at the major league level when people are throwing 100 miles an hour. It's fun. Like, what do you make of this as from a DFS standpoint, Henry? Like, is snow something that is going to turn you off?
I don't know if it's going to necessarily turn me off fully, but I think I'd be more interested in the pitchers just because the cold just normally doesn't fare well for hitters. The ball doesn't fly very well. And then, yeah, you talk about just the cold and trying to hit 100 miles per hour. That sounds painful in itself. So yeah, I don't know if I'm fully fading it, but I don't know if I really want to invest in a bunch of hitters that are playing in snow.
Right. And we'll find out even if this game plays.
Yeah.
As of right now, it doesn't look like, lineups are being released. Like, teams are, there hasn't been any rumors of cancellation yet, but obviously if it's going to snow, they're going to have to make a decision by the time the time first pitch comes around. So definitely another situation to monitor. When we shift our attention to Vegas, a couple things stand out. Aaron Nola and the Philadelphia Phillies, minus 305 on the money line against the Colorado Rockies. Shohei Ohtani and the Angels, minus 280 on the money line against the Kansas City Royals. John Gray, minus 210 on the money line against the A's. Those are the 3 things in Vegas that stand out to me. And I think we're going to see some correlation when we jump into pitching, which I think is a perfect transition. Those are the biggest favorites on the board. Shohei Ohtani tops the pitcher position here at 10-8. Aaron Nola not too far down at 9-4. We have Freddie Peralta, Hunter Brown, and Zach Gallen in between them. But for me, it's really hard not to look at Ohtani at 10-8 and think, yeah, that's a plug and play. And then, try to mix and match my bats around Ohtani and Nola. But what say you about this top tier of pitching?
Yeah, I mostly agree with you. Ohtani is always going to be tempting. He's Shohei
Right.
Ohtani. He's amazing. He's gonna, and especially when you get him facing a Kansas City Royals lineup who doesn't know how to hit, like, yeah, I'm super excited about that. But I think the one that pops out to me even more is Aaron Nola. And Colorado Rockies got shut down yesterday by Matt Strom. They're not a great hitting team, especially away from Coors. And Aaron Nola is an ace. He hasn't had like the hottest start of the season, but he is a stud. And so we get him today facing the Rockies, and I'm kind of surprised that he's under 10K. So I think, he's the one that really pops out that excites me here. But I like John Gray also. He had a short start last time out getting hurt, which Ohtani did as well, not from getting hurt, but because of the rain. But he seems healthy, ready to go. And John Gray is awesome. He's someone who has benefited from getting out of Coors, and I think he could do some damage today.
Yeah, I'm a little. So we'll touch on the Gray now, because what do you make of Gray with the elbow? Because it's a little unsettling, especially considering what we've seen, right? In recent days, Jeffrey Springs had last week the nerve, he lost the feeling, seemingly was okay. There was going to be a short stint where he was shut down. Tommy John. Then Chris Bubich, same thing, leaves the game, says, "Oh, it's just a little discomfort. I'll be fine." Today, or was it today? Yesterday, Tommy John.
Today, Tommy John.
Tommy John. And I understand Gray has probably thrown a bunch since his last start and has been deemed okay to pitch. But what if this issue you start talking about elbow where, that's not the best for the pitcher in today's era. Does that worry you at all? Or because he's going out there just 6 days later, he made his last start on the 15th, are you okay going to him? Because 9,100 for a guy coming off 2 innings and then was like, yeah, my elbow. That's kind of a scary thought for me. And on top of that, he's projected to be pretty highly owned. So maybe a way to leverage against the field.
Yeah, I'm 0% worried about the injury. You talk about like Springs and Bubich, they hurt their arms throwing, and then it was Tommy John. Gray got hit by a comebacker. He's dealing with bruising. His arms hurt because of that. It shouldn't lead to any more complications because it's not like he's got that forearm tightness because of his throwing or anything like that. He got hit by a comebacker. He seems to be okay. I'm not worried about it.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
I love Ohtani today. The Kansas City Royals are strike out a lot. I love Nola. And you know what? You talked to me a little more John Gray than I was on before. Still popular, so still obviously a way to leverage against the field. It looks as if those 3 guys, plus a guy we're going to get to at this next tier, are going to be the most popular arms on the slate. And that guy is Tyler Mahle, who has not looked great. He has been okay. I think the 3 home runs his last 2 starts is not great, but he did have to pitch in Yankee Stadium his last time out. But Washington's offense is not the Yankees offense. What do you make of Tyler Mahle? He's going to be pretty popular. 18 strikeouts to 5 walks in his first 15 and a third. Is this someone you're gravitating to as well?
Yeah, I love Mahle today. I think he's a good pitcher. I think he's better than what his lines have shown so far. Again, it's going to be cold there, and Washington's offense, they've hit 8 home runs this year. So they cannot hit the ball out. So I'm not worried about them at all. And I love Mahle. I think he's a great pitcher, and as long as we're not worried about that game getting canceled, which I don't think it will, I'm all over Mahle today.
Yeah, that's the kicker on Mahle. It's if this game plays, it's going to be really hard for people to hit in this cold weather. Mahle could have a serious advantage. Washington has disadvantage hitting when it's good weather. So I can't imagine how good they're going to be and how effective they're going to be in bad weather if that game plays. What about the rest of this 8K tier? I didn't intentionally skip over George Kirby. But Kirby against Seattle, Seth Lugo going up against Arizona. You and I like the Arizona offense. Bryce Elder gets a pretty tough matchup. Anthony DeSclafani gets the Mets at home. Anything in this 8K 8K tier appeal to you?
Not especially. Those are pitchers I like. I like Kirby. I like Lugo. I think Elder's pretty good, but they all have some pretty tough matchups,
Yep.
Like those are some pretty good offenses that they have to go against. So I just think compared to some of the other options you have, even though those are guys that a lot of times I'm going to be going after, I don't think I want to risk it today against the pretty good offenses when we have some better options.
I agree. And maybe some of those better options will come down here in this 7K range, maybe a little bit lower as well. Domingo Herman coming off his sticky stuff incident of last outing, where he was allowed to continue pitching. Max Scherzer, not the same luck, but Domingo Herman coming off arguably his best start as a Yankee, someone I'm not fond of as a Yankees fan. I do not think he's very good, but he's coming off a really good start. Tough matchup here. Nick Pivetta, is what he is, I think, at this point. He's good, he's bad, he's good, he's bad. That seems to be the life of a Boston Red Sox starter at this point in their careers. Stephen Matz, 7-3, Yusei Kikuchi, 71. But I don't know if I'd get to any of those guys. I don't know how you feel about that, Henry. I actually have a couple guys in the 6K tier, though, that I have some interest in.
I was going to say the same thing. I don't like much of that 7K tier just because if I'm going to drop down that low, I actually like Zach Plesac and Tyler Wells today if we're trying to talk about cheap options.
If you had to, so I was going to throw Braxton Garrett in there. So if you had to rank the three, how would you rank them? We'll talk tournament base because I think Wells looks like he's going to be higher owned. He might be someone that people look to in cash games here as a spend down SP2. How would you rank Wells, Plesac, Garrett?
I would probably go Wells, Plesac, then Garrett, but it's pretty close for me between those three. I think I favor Wells just because I think anyone with a pulse could tear up Detroit right now. So I think he might have a little less talent even than both Garrett or Plesac, but I mean, Detroit's just not a good offense. So I really trust him, but I could see going to Plesac or Garrett in this spot as well. I mean, sure, Detroit's offense is bad, but Miami and Cleveland aren't scary either. So I could see going to either side of that matchup today as well.
Yeah, so I tentatively agree. I might switch Garrett and Plesac, but I do think Tyler Wells. I do agree on Tyler Wells being first. Cleveland is just better against right-handed pitching, and not even that they're great there, but Jose Ramirez is clearly a better hitter from the left side. They're 21st in OPS against they don't walk a lot, and Braxton Garrett does have some strikeout appeal. That's where I think separates me, especially on a site like DraftKings where you are very reliant upon strikeouts. I mean, we saw it last night. Matt Strahm had 11 strikeouts, and he was him and Runzi Contreras were the two optimal pitchers on Thursday's slate. Braxton Garrett simply just has more strikeout appeal than Plesac, who has 2 starts this year with 1 strikeout, right? That's where I hesitate to really, and I know Miami is not a great offense. They do strike out a lot, and that's been a trending topic with Miami for the last few years. Even with a healthy team, they still strike out. I mean, second highest strikeout rate in the league against righties this year. But does that matter with Zach Plesac on the mound? Is he needs to have the 6 strikeout game against Seattle here, and do it more consistently for me to want to play Zach Plesac. That's my only, probably the reason I would rank Garrett, but we might not have either of them because this game is in danger of getting rained out. So obviously monitor the news there. Anything below, Tyler Wells, I think, that first outing, 5 innings, he was called into emergency relief. The 47 pitches should not be of anyone's concern. Look at the last 2 starts, 85, 89, 2 pretty tough matchups, and he fared pretty well against both. So I do like Tyler Wells. I agree. Anything below Tyler Wells, we have I don't know if this is the first opener of the year, but it feels like, at least on the main slate, this is the first opener of the year where Ryan Yarbrough is going to come in and long relief behind Taylor Clark. Is there anything down here? Trevor Williams, JP Sears, like, do you have any interest in any of these guys?
No, I don't think so. I think once you get past Wells, those are just all pitchers that I would rather be targeting against that I just do not trust at all. I don't think they have high upside, and I think the possibility of blow up is just so huge that I just don't see the value in trying to go there.
What about Joey Lucchesi? He's looked good at AAA. We know because we profiled it yesterday that the Giants strike out a lot. I mean, they lead the league in strikeout rate. No interest, 5,400 on the Fantasy Alarm podcast this morning, the DFS podcast I did with Howard Bender. He shot it down immediately. First, he corrected me on the pronunciation and told me my Italian ancestors would be very disappointed in my pronunciation of his name, and then he just said, "No, there's no chance I get to him." I've been toying with this one all day because the Giants have just profiled better against righties. They have a lot of lefties in their lineup, and I understand that, like, they do, in theory, have guys that should hit righties. Wilmer Flores and JD Davis has been historically good against lefties, and they just haven't been. So I don't 5,400. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to. You don't have to feel the same about them. I just, I'm there. I think. If I'm playing multiple lineups. Okay, here I'll pose this question. If you're playing 20 lineups, would you have one or two shares?
No, I would have 0 shares. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Okay. I respect it.
I see what you're saying. I don't think that it's a dumb take, but you can't sell me on it. I don't want him. No.
Okay. Maybe if I win 150 lineups, you might sneak one in there. Let's shift over to catcher, where classic spend down spot here at catcher, but I do think there's some interesting names at the top of the position. And this is the debate Howard and I had on the podcast last night. The debate was, well, if I play Adley Rutschman or JT, Realmuto wasn't in this discussion, but he should be. Davis thinks. If I play one of those guys, I'm probably not playing someone else at a different position, where catcher is typically a good position to punt. But Michael Lorenzen looked horrible last start, and I know he's a good ground ball pitcher, but he didn't look the same coming off the injury. And Realmuto gets maybe the best matchup on the board. The Phillies are the team with the highest implied run total on the day. Any love for either of these guys over 5K, or are you just in the same line of thinking like we should spend down at this point?
Yeah, I love Adley and Realmuto in this spot. Like they could have a great day, but I'm kind of with you where there's just with the available pitching and some beast hitters in other places, I kind of want that money elsewhere. And I like some of the options lower down at catcher too. So I could see going up for those guys at the top, but I think you have a better chance with spending your money elsewhere.
Well, then talk to me about where elsewhere resides. Like, what is your cup of tea here at catcher? I think for me, right under 4K looks pretty interesting.
Yes, I would agree with that. There's one name that super pops out to me, and that is Jonah Heim.
Yes, sir.
Because Jonah Heim just murders lefties. I mean, crushes them. So I really love him in this matchup, batting 6th. I think he's a great spot here to have a decent game against a lefty.
Yeah, I think Texas, and we'll get into obviously the rest of the positions in general. I think Texas is one of, if not my favorite stack of the day. And it's, we'll see, you never have to go full stack, but like if you're playing 2-man stack, Jonah Heim hitting 6th is really nice with Josh Jung, or let's see what the lineup is. Josh Jung hitting 5th, Adolis hitting 4th. Like, I like the top of their lineup. It's not that gross, man.
No.
Come on. I was just Robbie Grossman hitting 2nd tonight. So I had to go there. I had to go there. I have to get my daily dad joke in, that's just like what, once you become a dad, it just starts flowing. I can't stop it. I can't control it. All right. I can't control it.
Yeah, I get it.
What else do we got here at catcher? When we move down the list, I mean, I like Kyle Higashioka against lefties. He is just a power bat against lefties. That is what he's good at offensively. He's a good defensive catcher, but he is a power bat. Yusei Kikuchi is, a guy who gives up big flies. Any Higashioka love here at 2,700?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for that cheap. Like, you know what you're getting when you go for Higashioka. He's hitting you a home run or he's doing nothing else.
Right.
But I mean, it's going to come against a lefty, and Kikuchi so far this season has a 2.93 homer per nine. And that's not that much more outrageously high than his career numbers. Like, the dude
Yikes.
gives up home runs.
Yikes.
So as far as really saving money at catcher spot, I love going Higashioka here because it just seems like a great matchup for if there's a day that he's going to hit a home run. Today might be one of the most likely chances he gets.
Since you're not on Lucchese, how about does Joey Bart 2,200 interest you at all? He's been pretty good this year. The heir apparent to Buster Posey, I think that's what they said about him.
Yeah, man, I was excited about Bart when he was first coming up, and it's been pretty disappointing. But
Right.
yeah, he's been hitting the ball a little bit. I could see going towards him here, but I just don't know if he's done enough that I actually believe it yet. It's still a pretty small sample size. We're talking about he had like a 4-game stretch where he had 3 multi-hit games, which great, go him. But I don't think it was enough to sell me on Joey Bart yet. So I could see going there. He's super cheap. Maybe he really has figured out the plate, but I think I need to see a little more from him before I'm sold on trying to go for Joey Bart.
Okay. Anything else at catcher that you really like, or anything that stands out? Could be really anything. It's a bleak position per usual.
I like Cal Raleigh, and I like the Keibert Ruiz a little bit. Our 2 switch hitting catchers. I think those are also those mid-range guys that you could go for. But they don't overly excite me. I think I'd rather go either for Jonah Heim or go down to Higashioka here.
I agree on the Ruiz. I like Ruiz hitting second. I think that's a nice little wrinkle for Washington. Tough matchup and tough weather conditions we've mentioned. Before we head over to the first base position, get your college football talk on Campus to Canton tonight at 7 Eastern. Felix Sharp and Colin Decker profile this year's NFL rookie class and give their bold predictions for the NFL draft. Plus, spring game stories around the college football landscape. Campus to Canton tonight at 7 Eastern on the Better Sports Network app at bettersports.com and streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch at Better Network. Let's head over to first base. As I mentioned, we have a lot of elite talent. Now, they're not all in the best spots, but talent nonetheless. Paul Goldschmidt faces up against George Kirby at 59. Matt Olson, 5,800 against Hunter Brown. Vladdy Guerrero Jr. against Domingo Germán, 57. Pete Alonso coming off another night with a home run. Shocker there. 5,600. CJ Cron, 55. Any of those names stand out, or do you just prefer guys below the 5K range? Because, again, it's like, okay, if I'm paying up for Ohtani, I'm being careful on where I'm spending up at the bats. Outfield is obviously going to be a popular spend-up spot with how many 6K guys there are. But what's your thoughts on this 5K range for first baseman, Henry?
Yeah, I mean, all of those top 4 guys are just insane hitters. So like you can talk me into any of them. But like you said, with the extra money to spend at outfield and stuff, I'm probably looking to go lower. But if I really did want to go up for one of these higher first basemen today, it's probably going to be Pete Alonso. He's the one that really sticks out to me here. As the one to go for. I think he's got one of the better matchups. Granted, I like Desclafani, but compared to the pitchers the other top guys are facing, I like Pete Alonso here quite a bit.
I agree. And then probably, so I talked to Howard Bender on the pod again. Like, I like the Blue Jays because I really don't like Domingo Germán. The Blue Jays are just impossible to stack. Like they're just so expensive that every single play on the slate is like 5K or above. But I'm okay with the Vladdy one-off. I agree Alonso is the play for me as well. What about this mid-tier? I wish it wasn't snowy in Minnesota. Because
is always so tempting.
It's Trevor Williams, for as good as he is against right-handed bats, because right-handed bats cannot do anything against Trevor Williams. He cannot get people out from the left side. He cannot strike people out. He cannot get them out. And Joey Gallo, as terrible as it's been for the last couple of years, rooting for him on the team that I root for, has been pretty good this year in a limited sample. I feel like he would be the guy for me in this 4K range, but what say you, Henry?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there with Joey Gallo. Again, it's going to be cold, but Gallo has the kind of power that if he's going to hit a home
Right.
run, the cold's not going to stop the guy. I mean,
Agreed.
his problem is putting his bat on the ball. If he does that, I don't care how cold it is, it's probably
Right.
going out. The other one I like here is Rowdy Tellez, down right exactly at 4K against Pivetta. Pivetta is a pitcher that he's kind of up and down. When he's on, he looks pretty good. But when he's not on, he can get beat up pretty good. And Rowdy Tellez beats up righties, and so I kind of like him in this matchup.
I agree. 5 home runs already, all coming against right-handed pitchers. 392 WOBA against right-handed pitching. Nick Pivetta, only 208 average against lefties, 860 OPS, 370 WOBA. So, I agree. I think this is a good spot for Milwaukee. And they are, of all the teams like in Major League Baseball, are going to have the most boom and bust games of all time. Like their whole lineup is a GPP lineup. Like
Yeah.
in real life, Christian Yelich, no one knows what happened to Christian Yelich. He just can't, he's just not the same guy he was, but he has those like random weeks where he flashes like, oh, Christian Yelich is back. And then Rowdy has double down games and then goes cold for 10 games. Willie Adames is so good at home and so good against right-handed pitching, but he really like he disappeared. Like I agree, but like you just can't trust these guys in cash. Like they're just. I feel like Milwaukee is as a team just a tournament team. Heading below 4K. What do we like? Justin Turner doesn't have the easiest matchup. Joey Meneses, no thanks at 3,900. Brennan Drury, I usually only use against lefties. Josh Bell is, he's been a little better lately, but do we want to go there? Like, where is the next name we're looking at first base?
I kind of like Jake Cronenworth. Gallen's a good pitcher, but I kind of like that. But I think I'm going to jump down to someone who we tried to go yesterday, but he wasn't in the lineup, and I'm hoping he's in the lineup today, and that's Pavin Smith. I'm going to go back to the well there. He's hit a home run in his last 2 games, assuming he actually is in the lineup today, which I'm guessing he will be, but I figured he would be yesterday. I like Pavin Smith today for this cheap option.
I do too. I think that's where I would go as well. A couple comments here in our chat. First, Donnie Boone has been waiting for a couple hours to say this. Nico Horner homered today. We are a Nico Horner fan club here, Donnie. Shout out to you. Shout out to Nico Horner. Unfortunately, he didn't do it for my lineup last night. But for everyone who played Showdown today and captained Nico Horner, you might have won a lot of money today. Or if you captained Drew Smiley, that's not a bad consolation either. And then Chase 15 Beast, AK Ice Through in the Discord and Fantasy Alarm Nation. Let's crush. If putting in 13 lineups, is Bryce Elder an option, Henry?
Man, I like Elder, but Houston's got one of the scariest lineups, and especially they have some terrifying lefty bats with Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez. He's a good enough pitcher that if you're talking about 13 lineups, putting him in one of them, maybe you can sell me on it. But the Houston lineup is just so good, and especially against righties, that you can't really convince me to trust him in more than maybe 1 out of your 13. And even that, I think, might be pushing it for me.
Yeah, and Houston has a pretty good implied total. 4.7 implied runs is pretty good. I mean, Elder had looked dominant in his first 2 starts, and that came against St. Louis. Like, that wasn't a tough outing. One of them was at home against Cincinnati, and then KC. Like, you love the ground balls from Elder. He has decent strikeout appeal as well, but I largely agree. I mean, if playing 13 lineups, yeah, you could take a dart. I mean, what's wrong with taking a dart in one of 13? Right? I mean, you don't want to play Aaron Nola, Shohei Ohtani in all 13 lineups. Like, that's no. So yeah, I agree. One lineup.
Yep, got upside, but you're not going to get a ringing endorsement from me that Elder's going to go out and put out a good start today. But yeah, he's got upside.
A ringing endorsement for me will come at the second base position, and that's Marcus Semien. And we talked about it with Jonah Heim. I love Texas today, and Semien is just one of those streaky players right now. I mean, 23, 18, 27, 22 fantasy points. He does this every year. He has 2 good months. John Impemba slanders this man's name and says he only has 1 good month a year. It's 2, John. I know you're out there somewhere. It's 2 good months, okay, that he has every year. Right now, we're in the midst of Mark Semien season. The speed hasn't really been on display. He did steal a base 2 days ago. I love this spot for Texas. I love them being at home and not in Oakland here. What do you think of Texas, and what do you think of Semien 5,700? Is that too expensive for you, or I mean, the upside is obviously there. Home run and speed combination could come in one game.
No, I think I agree with you. Marcus Semien, like you said, when he's hot, he's hot. I mean, he's one of the best. You look at his overall stats, and every season he puts up a great year. And through like several months of that, he's not hitting the ball.
Right.
So like, if that says how good his hot streaks are, I mean, it's really impressive. So no, I'm fully on board with paying up the whole 5,700 for Marcus Semien today, especially if you want to stack some Rangers. I agree. I think the Rangers are probably not my favorite. I think they're actually my second favorite stack today, and I'll actually get to my favorite with the next second baseman that I want to highlight, which is Gleyber Torres.
Okay.
Yeah, who
that's bold. That's big of you, Henry. That's big of you, by the way. I'm proud. I'm proud of you.
I'm wearing the Red Sox sweatshirt. The Yankees are my favorite stack of the day.
Okay.
Gleyber Torres has not been super hot. You know, he has not been great over the last couple of games. He's not doing nothing. He's just, hasn't had a big game. But again, against Kikuchi, in New York, right, this Yankees offense could hit 12 home runs. I really like Gleyber Torres in this spot as well. For 4,700, I think they could just go off against Kikuchi.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like the Yankees lineup has not looked great since Stanton has gone down. I do think Stanton's, just being there makes a big difference. Instead of hitting DJ LeMahieu 5th, like you have, or Torres 4th, like you have depth in your lineup with Stanton. But I do like the lineup tonight. Oswald Pereira hitting 6th, Oswaldo Cabrera hitting 7th. Like that's a good, pretty deep lineup, deeper than it's been with like Hicks and IKF as your 8-9 hitters. I know IKF is in the lineup tonight, but we've already profiled Higashioka. I agree. I think Gleyber is in a good spot. 4,700 seems a little pricey for a guy who's hitting 156 over his last 10 games, but we know Gleyber is a home run. He has both his home runs at Yankee Stadium this year. I do like Gleyber Torres quite a bit. I do like the Yankees as well. What do you make of the rest of this 4K position at second base? Or do we just skip right down to 2 guys right under 4K? Jorge Polanco making his debut. I was sad to see Edouard Julien go down, but making way for Polanco hitting 5th tonight. And then Bryson Stott, 3,900. Philly does have the highest implied total on the board. And Bryson Stott, we talked about yesterday, leading off, hitting really well. I mean, another day. I mean, they stunk on Thursday, but was on base twice. Like, is it the rest of the position is just kind of, move on to Stott and Polanco, or do you actually like someone in this other than Torres in this 4K range?
I do like Jimenez.
Okay.
If the weather's good there, he is one of the rare lefties who actually hits lefties better.
Yeah, he does.
So I do like Jimenez there, but I will say I don't think I like him as much as Bryson Stott, who I will take any chance I have right now to talk up because I just still don't understand how he is leading off in this Phillies lineup and still under 4K. It makes no sense to me.
Agreed. But we also saw Fernando Tatis at 2K yesterday. So like your Celtics legend Kevin Garnett said, anything is possible. Let's move on to the value tier here. Second, Mauricio Dubois, once again leading off 3,200. He feels like just a guy that's going to get you 5 fantasy points, 7 fantasy points almost every night. Not going to do much more than that, but, safe. Nicky Matone is leading off. He has shown some power. here at times. Oswald Peraza hitting 6 tonight. He gets the lefty. He's coming off a really good game on Thursday. Any of those guys, or do you have anyone else in mind for the value tier?
I could see going Peraza just because I said I like the Yankees lineup. So if you're stacking those, I like how cheap he is and batting sixth. I'm totally happy to add him into a stack there. But outside of him, all these guys like Frazier, Dubon, like they're going to get you like 4 or 5 points, but there's no upside. They're not going to have a game where they go off and give 20. So it doesn't really interest me.
Any Cronenworth love? Now hitting 6th, right, in that Padres lineup, or 5th? I think 6th last night, right? What did he hit last night in that Padres lineup with the return of Tatis? He had 6. Well, any love for him? 3,500, or
I do have love for him. That still feels cheap for Cronenworth. Like I know he has not been hitting very well, but we know that he can hit, and so in what I think is an okay matchup for him. It's at least a righty, but Gallen's pretty good. Like it's super cheap. We know that Cronenworth can put up a big game. I could see going towards Cronenworth there. But you can't convince me to take him over Bryson Stott. So
I agree. So let's move on to third, where Rafael Devers, Jose Ramirez, Austin Riley, Nolan Arenado, every big name in Major League Baseball sits. Usually a position we like to spend up on. I like some guys below. But what do you think of this 5K and Rafael Devers tops the 6K range here?
Yeah, I will give my Boston love for this one because Rafi Devers is, I think, my favorite of these top. If you're going to spend up, I think I want to spend for Devers. He's just such a good hitter. I know Peralta's a pretty good matchup, and I could see maybe wanting to pivot to Jose Ramirez, who gets to face Garrett. But you're worried about weather there, and I just think Devers has so much potential to just go and hit 3 home runs any game that, I am totally willing to pay the 6K for him if you want to go at the top tier here.
Yeah, I'm not sure why people are pitching to him, truthfully, because you look at the rest of the Red Sox lineup, and it's
he should not see a pitch in the strike zone for the rest of the season.
Nothing else to really say. I agree. Devers has been tremendous, especially in the power department. Multiple dong upside for sure. Under 5K, what do we got? Manny Machado's price is just getting so appealing at 4,600. I mean, I know he has been bad. I am fully acknowledging that. I think it's taken him a little bit to get used to the pitch clock more than others. We saw that he was the first strikeout of the pitch clock in spring training. But 4,600, I mean, he's a 5K player when he's on. Any love? I know Gallen's a tough matchup, but sometimes you just factor in price, and price trumps matchup sometimes. 4,600 feels really good for Machado.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, last year he was one of the best hitters in all of baseball. So he's off to a slow start, but it's a super, super small sample, and he is a fantastic hitter, and all it will take is a couple games for his price to shoot up again. So while he's this low, I think it's totally worth the chance, no matter who the matchup is, to go after Manny Machado if you want to.
Update, Pavin Smith is in the lineup tonight, hitting 6th for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So our value first baseman still alive there. DJ LeMahieu is fine. I think 4,300. Same thing with Alec Boehm. I think both are moderately decent mid-tier plays. But I've talked to you about Texas. We haven't talked a lot of Seattle, though. And I think Seattle is a little bit interesting tonight because Steven Matz has not been good in St. Louis, has not been good this year. Eugenio Suarez is very good against lefties. They have a couple guys in the outfield we're going to get to that are really good against lefties as well. And I really like Josh Jung. Talk to me about Suarez and Jung. Do you have a preference? Do you like them both? I mean, on FanDuel, you can play them both. On DraftKings, you can't unless you're multi-lineuping. But talk to me about Suarez and Jung here.
Yeah, I have love for them both. I actually have them both highlighted here as my 2 favorite third basemen of the slate, the back-to-back there. I think my preference leans Suarez just slightly, But man, it's close. I mean, both of these guys are in great matchups, have great home run potential, and I think they're awesome plays here, whichever the direction you want to go.
Yeah, righties with 1,000 OPS against Steven Matz this year, 449 WOBA. Lefties doing nothing. So, I get your righties in, and Seattle is not does not have a lack of right-handed bats in their lineup. I'll tell you that.
No.
So yeah, I agree. I love Suarez. I love Jung. I think you just depending on which stack you're playing. Like if you're playing a Texas stack, you're gonna play Jung. If you're playing a Seattle stack, like get Suarez in. What
Yep.
about what about below those guys? Anything stand out? Like Gunnar Henderson continues to just get on base. He doesn't. He's not great, but he continues to get on base. Um, anything
I like
else?
Brian Anderson a little bit.
Okay.
He hits righties fairly well, and I already expressed my distrust of Pivetta.
Right.
So, I don't mind Anderson, but the problem is I don't think there's quite enough of a discount compared to Suarez and Josh Jung that, warrants that much of a drop. But if you're, really tight for cash and need to drop a little lower, I like Brian Anderson.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I don't. Oh, actually, I lied. And Howard Bender and I talked about this on the podcast this morning. Brett Beatty is $2,200, and I think it's an interesting conversation because he didn't start with the lefty. Obviously, there's no reason to think that Eduardo Escobar is starting over this guy tonight. There's none. There's none. There is zero reason. It's got to be Beatty in the lineup. 2,200. I know you said you like Anthony DeSclafani. What are your thoughts on Beatty here at 2,200?
Yeah, agreed. He's going to be in the lineup. If they don't play him in this matchup, why is he on the squad? Put him back
Agreed.
to AAA. So
Agreed.
he should be in the lineup. And yeah, I like him. He obviously hasn't shown anything really yet, but we know that he's got a great hit tool. He has just insane raw power. So I think he's going to be a great big league hitter. So when you can get him for 2,200, again, we haven't seen anything yet. Maybe he's not ready for the big leagues, but the potential is there. So for 2,200, I'm totally willing to take a shot.
Before heading over to shortstop tonight at 8 Eastern, join Eric Balkman from the FFPC and Garrett Price from Dynasty Nerds for an NFL draft preview from the fantasy football perspective, featuring a 3-round NFL mock draft, position by position breakdowns, plus a fantasy football rookie draft, including the experts from the Fantasy Football Players Championship and Dynasty Nerds. The 2023 NFL Draft Preview tonight, beginning at 8 Eastern at bettersports.com and the Better Sports Network app. Let's head over to shortstop, as I mentioned. Another position where we have elite names, Fernando Tatis included in the 5K tier. Took them a really long time for 5K. Also, kudos to DraftKings. I will give them credit here. We've been kind of, poking fun at them the last couple nights. They gave him outfield eligibility, which that should be the case, right? Started in right field on Thursday. Anyone over 5K for you? For me, we talked about the Adames thing at home. He has just been better since going to Milwaukee. He talked about not being able to see at Tropicana, and then he went to Milwaukee and he can see everything. And that seemingly is the case again this year. 1,200 OPS. If it's not Adames, or if it is, who's your favorite 5K and above shortstop?
It's Willy Adames. Again, he, like you said, he crushes at home and he also crushes righties.
Right.
So, that's his bread and butter. So we get him at home against a righty. Yeah, I'll totally go for Willy Adames here.
5th highest implied total on the board, by the way, for Milwaukee.
Yeah. I'm also happy to go Tatis here. I know that he just went over 5 being 2K and now he's 3,100 more. So you're like, why would I pay for him? But come on, it's Tatis.
Right.
5,100 is probably still too low.
Yep.
He hit a million home runs right before he came up in the minor leagues. He's ready to go. He's going to have a big game soon. So I'm willing to run it back with Tatis, even for $3,100 above what you paid yesterday.
Actual number, by the way, a million home runs in the minors. That was an actual number. That was a factual statement. If you go look at his baseball reference page, under 5K, what do we got? I think there's a clear cut play. I mean, I assume we're in agreement. It's going to be Anthony Volpe at 3,700. You're already in on the Yankee stack. He has been a lot better. He has looked better at the plate. He's getting on base. He has a very good eye. He just profiles as a really good baseball player in general. It's Volpe, right? 3,700.
Yeah. It's
leading
Volpe,
off.
period. It's either you're taking one of those top guys for me or you're taking Volpe. No one else really pops out for me. I don't think there's a whole lot of upside around. I mean, you could go Peraza too if you want a different Yankee,
Right.
but I could see doing both. If you put Peraza at second,
Right.
take Volpe at short, even it's Volpe.
I think that is an interesting approach. If you were to use them both, that obviously exiles Gleyber Torres from your lineup, right? Like I get like that could be an interesting different way to look at a Yankee stack that could be pretty popular, especially we're talking Volpe. He's gonna be he's largely as long as he's under 4K and leading off, he's gonna be popular.
Yeah.
So interesting approach there. I like both guys. Volpe. What about we talked about on the podcast this morning? Howard liked Zach Nato. I wasn't as he looked good in the one game at Yankee Stadium. But he didn't do much else. Any love 3K, or are you just ready to go to the outfield?
Yeah, I gotta think I side with you on this one against Howard. I
Okay.
don't know if I see it. I could be wrong, but again, maybe if they're still going to bat him leadoff for the Angels lineup, like I could
Right.
see the appeal, but I think I need to see him actually hit the ball a little more before I'm sold.
I agree. I think if he's leading off, maybe we take a
Yeah.
dart, but we've also seen him. They've moved him back down to
Yeah,
the
I don't think he's
bottom
going to
of
lead
the lineup.
off.
So
So
someone who is leading off, and it's at the top of this outfield position, is Ronald Acuna Jr. As well as, I mean, we have 40 guys to talk about over 5K. So let me pitch it to you like this. Who is your favorite 6K guy? I'm not going to be surprised when you say Aaron Judge. So I'll act like I'm surprised. And then who's your few favorite 5K tiered outfielders as
yeah, it's Aaron Judge again. I'm going
well?
on the
What?
Yankees stack today, so it's Judge. But I will give a slight nod to Yordan Alvarez because I do kind of like the 1-2 punch of Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker as your lefties against Elder. But no, it's Judge.
And then what about the 5K tier, dude? It's J-Rod season right now. Like it is J-Rod season. The season of J-Rod last year, like got off to a slow start, and then it just was full steam ahead. And we're starting to get to that point again. Home runs in 2 of his last 3, hits in 6 of his last 7. And the stolen bases haven't even been there in the last handful of games. They were early on. They haven't been there lately. And we just said how bad Steven Matz has been against righties. Like, I think for me, Judge and Julio Rodriguez are like 1A, 1B of the spend ups at the outfield position.
Yeah, I mean, I already gave my love for Eugenio Suarez, against Mats. So times that by 10 for Julio Rodriguez. I'm all here for Julio Rodriguez.
You mentioned you like Kyle Tucker, 5,800. More expensive than we've seen Kyle Tucker. And I mean, I guess the last few slates he has been, and in years past, the DraftKings never priced this guy like this. So good for them. He is deserving of that price point. Cedric Mullins back up to lead off, 5,600. Jazz Chisholm leading off in rain tonight. Adolis Garcia hitting fourth. Another Marcus Semien light player where like you just look up at the end of the year, it's like, oh, 30 home runs, 25 stolen bases again. That's kind of crazy that happened. Soto is 52. Buxton is 5,000. Like any of those guys appeal to you at all?
Yeah, I could see going back to Juan Soto. Adolis Garcia, I don't think is a good hitter. So you can't convince me to pay $100 more for Adolis Garcia when I could get Juan Soto. That just doesn't make any sense to me. But I mean, sure, he can have a game that he gets some stolen bases and home runs for you. I get it, but I just don't think he's a good hitter.
I can't say I'm like my mind wants to agree with you, and then I look at the numbers and it's like those two things like don't compute because
I know.
and it's largely like he's doing things like in large quantities, like 3-run home run, 2-run home run, 4 RBIs he hits a grand slam in that game, 2 home runs. Like there's never just like 3 for 4 with like 2 double. Like it's everything is big, which is why I think Adolis does have pretty sizable GPP appeal. I agree on the Soto. We said the thing about Soto. Like what did we say about Soto yesterday? He's just been unlucky. Tough spot here against Gallen. Obviously, having Tatis hit in front of you might see a couple more pitches here. What about below 4K? I think I we talked about it earlier. Christian Yelich can be a GPP guy, but lefties were Teoscar Hernandez bread and butter last year, and that's why I was interested in Seattle. Why I mentioned the interest in Seattle at third base was because Teoscar Hernandez was so good against lefties last year. He's been very good against them this year already. 367 WOBA. What's your take on Teoscar? What's your take on Christian Yelich? And what's your take on the rest of this 4K tier in general?
Yeah, I love both Christian Yelich and Teoscar in Seattle. They're awesome. I have one guy in this tier I like even better, though, and that's Brandon Nimmo.
Okay.
Brandon Nimmo has been just such a good hitter lately. And I mean, by lately, I mean the last couple of years. And I think he just keeps getting better. So in a decent matchup here, I think Nimmo is way too cheap.
Yeah, I mean, for Nimmo, it's just always been health. Like he just needs to stay. He just needs to stay on the field, and there's no doubt about like. And I think he's already matched his stolen base total from a year ago too. 3 stolen bases. I think he had 3. Maybe it was 5. I mean, either way, he's either there or 60% of the way there. So I do also agree, Brandon Nimmo, great play. We mentioned Joey Gallo at 4,200. I think he's interesting. What about under 4K? Lars Nootbaar, he's been good, but like 39. Max Kepler could be an interesting name because Trevor Williams just struggles so much with lefties. So can Trevor Larnach, 3,400. I think Kepler hitting first, Larnach hitting fourth. What's your take on either of those Minnesota guys? Again, weather. We're dealing with weather there, but like if the weather is good enough that we're like not concerned about, and by good enough I mean if it's not snowing, do we have lefties? There's 3 of them right here.
Yeah, I like Trevor Larnach. I don't think you can sell me on Kepler. I just don't see that upside. But Larnach has great home run potential at 3,400 against Williams. I like Trevor Larnach there.
Going down, we just got Mariners lineup just now. AJ Pollock is hitting 5th, and I have always only used AJ Pollock when Jared Kelenich's out of the lineup because I worry about the pinch hit possibility. Jared Kelenic hitting 6th, so maybe Pollock is not pinch hit for. Lefty. They're giving Kelenic the chance. I agree with that. I know you just give. Like if you're gonna play him, play him. Give him righties, give him lefties. If he can't hit lefties, and if you can't figure it out, then take him out. But like, give him the opportunity to do so. But Pollock hitting 5th, any appeal? 3,200. He was very good against lefties last year, and hitting 5th in this lineup against Steven Matz here is appealing to me.
Yeah, Pollock. Yeah, if he's 5th in there, especially you're stacking Mariners, which I'm all about today. Yeah, 5th in that lineup. Pollock is still a good hitter, and yeah, that guarantee that he's probably not going to be pinch hit for. I'm definitely happy to throw Pollock in.
Anything else down here at all? Like Robbie Grossman, I mentioned, is 2,700. I don't know if we want to go there. He's hitting 2nd. They cannot figure out what to do in the 2-hole with Corey Seager out. But anything? Is there anything down here, or is it just
Duran? I think has some interesting potential. I still don't know if I actually believe that his talent's going to keep him in the Boston lineup, but like the raw athleticism that he has is there. So he's going to have games that he's going to have a triple, 2 stolen bases, a home run, whatever. Like he can do that. He has that potential. So, he's not that great of a hitter, it seems. He hasn't quite figured out the plate, but like he's got the athleticism. We've seen him put up some big stuff. So for the price, I like the upside that he brings.
All right. A little late. We're not going to get to the lineup building here. Henry, big shout out to you for filling in this week. Coming up next on the Better Sports Network, we have the Fantasy Alarm Baseball Seasonal Podcast. Matt Sells and Colby Conway talking all things weekend streamers, talking injury news, anything you could want. Big shout out to Adam on the 1s and 2s behind the camera. For Henry and for James, we will catch you guys back on Monday. Thank you guys for watching. Let's win some money tonight. We'll catch you guys later.